victim for so long are really the aggressors. Well, if I was Meghan, I'd be undoubtedly very worried tonight. There was always talk of reconciliation. Charles and William and Kate go one side, Harry and Meghan the other side.
They say crowns don't crack, but what happens when the loudest voice meets the quietest palace? Prince Harry and Meghan have spent years building a careful image. Then along comes Tom Bower, a biographer who thrives on pressure, teasing claims that instantly put Lilibet at the center of online chatter. It's the perfect storm. Bower's reputation for provocation, King Charles and Prince William holding to silence, and an audience primed to parse every detail. The facts we do have, like Lilibet's christening, sit beside a thicket of speculation, and that's where perception takes over. This isn't just another royal headline. It's about how Harry manages legacy in a space where whispers outrun statements, how Meghan navigates brand and family at the same time, and how Charles and William use quiet as a strategy. The more the palace says nothing, the louder the narrative machine hums. And when Tom Bower hints at more to come, curiosity spikes, trust wobbles, and the stakes climb. We'll strip this down to what's recorded, what's rumored, and why silence can feel like an answer even when it isn't. Because the real question isn't who speaks first, it's who controls the story when the room goes quiet. Tom Bower built a career walking straight into rooms most people tiptoe around. He writes with sharp elbows, and that alone makes Tom Bower impossible to ignore. Every time his name surfaces beside Prince Harry and Meghan, interest spikes because Bower brings heat even when the facts are cool. He understands momentum. He understands that the moment Lilibet is mentioned, the internet leans in. That's his edge. He frames a question in a way that makes silence feel suspicious. On the other side, Harry and Meghan have spent years crafting a durable brand. The promise is control, polished imagery, careful disclosures, and just enough privacy to keep curiosity alive. Meghan knows that distance can be power. Harry knows that access can be currency. Together, they built a narrative that travels. Documentaries, interviews, projects that say, "We'll tell it our way." When King Charles and Prince William keep the palace quiet, Harry and Meghan try to shape the story from outside the gates. That's where tension lives. Tom Bower thrives on the gaps between what's confirmed and what's withheld. Harry hates those gaps because gaps invite theories. Meghan watches those same gaps become headlines, and the brand she protects starts taking on meanings she didn't choose. Mention Lilibet, and the stakes feel personal. Mention Charles and William, and the stakes feel constitutional. Everyone's playing the same board, but not the same game. So when Tom Bower hints at more, it collides with a brand that relies on precision. And that's why this flare-up feels different. The louder Bower gets, the more valuable silence becomes, and the more dangerous it feels to Harry and Meghan. But dates, not decibels, should matter most. So let's pin down what's actually on the record next. Before the rumor mill grabs Lilibet and runs, lock in the one date everyone agrees on: March 3rd, 2023. A spokesperson for Prince Harry and Meghan confirmed their daughter's christening took place that Friday at their Montecito home, conducted by Reverend John Taylor, the Episcopal Bishop of Los Angeles. Multiple mainstream outlets, People, The Guardian, Vanity Fair, reported the same specifics, including the use of Princess Lilibet in the announcement. That's not a whisper. That's the record. Why does this single milestone matter so much? Because every timeline theory or headline about Harry, Meghan, and Lilibet ends up circling back to that confirmed christening. The facts, date, place, officiant, and title usage create a fixed point that outlives the daily churn. Even follow-ups reiterated the basics: Lilibet's status in the line of succession after the Queen's passing, and the couple's intention to use royal titles for their children. Those are the anchors in a conversation that loves to drift. Everything beyond that fixed point tends to collide with a familiar royal force: selective silence. The family's long-running never complain, never explain. Posture means King Charles and Prince William often let coverage breathe without stepping in, an approach that can steady the crown while making audiences lean harder into speculation about Harry and Meghan. That's the paradox. The more official voices go quiet, the more a single verified date carries the whole narrative on its back. But silence is a strategy, not an accident, and it shapes how every story about Harry, Meghan, and Lilibet is received. Let's unpack why the palace keeps the volume low next. Silence isn't indecision at the palace, it's policy. Never complain, never explain is more than a motto. It's a shield that King Charles and Prince William know how to use. When pressure builds, they often hold the line. No rebuttals, no clarifications. Just a blank space that makes the loudest claim echo even louder. It frustrates critics and fascinates audiences because quiet feels calculated. That's exactly why stories about Prince Harry and Meghan behave the way they do. The moment a rumor lands, the palace steps back, and the conversation rushes forward on its own. In that gap, names take on new weight. Harry, Meghan, Tom Bower, Lilibet, each one carrying a different kind of tension. Silence pushes the public to become detectives. It invites guesswork, connects dots that may not belong together, and turns cautious words into confident conclusions. But there's a reason the silence holds. It protects the crown from chasing every narrative down a rabbit hole. It keeps Charles and William from elevating allegations just by addressing them. And it leaves Harry and Meghan outside the gates with a harder job, telling their story without the institutional microphone. That imbalance shapes perception. It always has. So when Tom Bower hints at a new revelation, the palace doesn't race to the podium. It waits. The waiting is the message. And the longer the room stays quiet, the more the audience leans in. Which is why the next battlefield isn't a podium. It's the headlines themselves. Let's look at how Harry and the press keep colliding, and how that collision primes every fresh claim to explode. Prince Harry has spent years in open conflict with the press, and that fight reshaped how every story about Harry and Meghan lands. Courtrooms, depositions, statements. He's made media accountability his personal crusade. Each legal push tells the public he believes lines were crossed, and each win or setback becomes another headline. It's a cycle. The more Harry confronts the system, the more the system spotlights Harry. That collision does something subtle to perception. When the audience watches Harry battle tabloids, it primes them to expect fresh eruption. So when Tom Bower surfaces with a new tease involving Lilibet, people don't start from neutral. They start from noise. The past fights color the present claim, and speculation finds ready-made paths, especially when King Charles and Prince William maintain their poker faces. Meghan understands this better than anyone. She's seen how a careful brand can get swept into a storm that wasn't on the calendar. That's why any whisper about titles, timelines, or Lilibet feels explosive. It plugs into a media machine that already knows the beats. One quote spins into a panel. One panel becomes a narrative. And the narrative keeps refreshing as long as the names Harry, Meghan, Bower, Charles, William, Lilibet stay on the marquee. This isn't just about fairness, it's about momentum. In a world where attention is the currency, conflict is credit. And when a new claim drops into that economy, it spends fast, which is exactly why the next variable matters most, the business side. When attention gets messy, deals get cautious. Let's talk Hollywood, the arena where narrative risk turns into real numbers for Harry and Meghan. In Hollywood, risk has a spreadsheet. When Prince Harry and Meghan pitch a series, a documentary, or a podcast, decision-makers scan for two things: trust and trajectory. Do the names Harry, Meghan, Lilibet bring sustained interest? And is the story moving towards stability or fresh turbulence? A clean arc attracts investment. A chaotic arc triggers caution. The moment Tom Bower teases new allegations, those calculations shift, because uncertainty isn't just a PR headache, it's a production liability. Executives don't need proof to pause. They just need doubt. If a narrative could get derailed mid-campaign, budgets stall, marketing windows close, and launch dates wobble. That's why even the suggestion of a controversy can make a room go quiet. Meghan knows the optics game. Consistent updates, controlled reveals, careful timing. Harry knows legacy is the story engine. But when chatter touches Lilibet, the conversation stops being purely commercial. It becomes personal, and personal stakes spook business fast. Then there's the title question, the branding question, the how royal is the story question. In a marketplace that loves prestige, a title beside Harry or Meghan telegraphs relevance. But prestige only works if it feels uncontested. The moment it seems contested, fairly or not, marketing teams start rewriting decks. King Charles and Prince William don't have to say anything for the impact to be felt. Their silence sets the tone, and the tone seeps into boardrooms. This is where strategy gets surgical. Meghan can pivot to lifestyle and leadership angles, highlight her work, and keep Lilibet protected. Harry can lean on purpose-driven storytelling where the mission outruns the noise, but none of it changes the baseline truth. Entertainment money follows confidence. Until confidence returns, the smartest move is clarity. What's fact? What's rumor? What actually counts? Which brings us to the rules everyone argues about, but few can quote: how succession and recognition really work when names like Charles, William, Harry, Meghan, and Lilibet are on the line. Strip the noise away, and the monarchy runs on rules. Bloodlines, recognition, and paperwork that moves slower than headlines. Titles don't turn on rumor, they turn on dissent and decision. King Charles doesn't chase narratives, he follows protocol. Prince William does the same. That's why speculation about Lilibet always sounds louder online than it looks on the ledger. The system favors continuity. It resists panic. It rarely rewrites itself for a news cycle. For Prince Harry and Meghan, that cuts two ways. On one hand, stability protects their children from being tossed around by chatter. On the other, the quiet pace of officialdom lets questions linger. People keep asking because the palace doesn't answer, and the palace doesn't answer because it doesn't want to make questions bigger than they are. That's the stalemate. Harry feels the weight of that silence. Meghan feels the optics of it. Lilibet sits at the center without choosing to. The legal machinery behind names and places in line is technical, not theatrical. It involves registers, letters, styles, and confirmations that arrive when they arrive. Meanwhile, Tom Bower understands the stage. He speaks in teases and timing. Put those worlds together. Slow paperwork, fast provocation, and you get exactly this moment. A monarchy that won't flinch, a writer who won't blink, and parents trying to keep a brand from becoming a battlefield. So when people predict shockwaves, remember the real lever isn't volume, it's verification. Charles and William keep it procedural. Harry wants it personal. Meghan wants it presentable. Lilibet remains a child, not a storyline. But if the paperwork is slow and the rumors are quick, what actually sways the crowd? Optics. Let's talk about why audiences lean in and how every name in this story helps pull them closer. Audiences don't only follow facts, they follow images. A single photo of Prince Harry and Meghan can calm a week of chatter, or ignite it. A rare glimpse of Lilibet creates a surge of curiosity that numbers can measure. When Tom Bower hints at revelations, the image pipeline becomes the battlefield. If King Charles and Prince William stay silent, the frame gets filled by whoever speaks next, and that's where perception outruns paperwork. Consistency is currency. When Harry and Meghan keep their visuals clean, clear messaging, aligned tone, steady appearances, trust feels tangible. Break the rhythm, and the audience starts reading tea leaves. Is Meghan signaling a pivot? Is Harry on defense? Even neutral choices get loaded with meaning. Add Tom Bower to the feed, and every pixel looks like a clue. Mention Lilibet, and people lean closer, projecting stories onto the smallest detail. Optics also shape empathy. A composed shot of Meghan suggests control. A candid of Harry looks like strain. A ceremonial frame with Charles and William projects order. None of this proves anything, but in a story about royals, optics are part of the language. Lilibet becomes the most sensitive subject in that language because a child's privacy collides with a public that won't stop looking. So the calculus is simple and brutal. Manage the frame, or the frame manages you. Harry knows that. Meghan knows that. Tom Bower counts on that. Charles and William hold their line knowing the pictures will keep talking anyway, which leaves one final question. When every move is read 3 different ways, what's the smartest next move for each player? Let's map the fork in the road and the least risky path forward for Harry, Meghan, Bower, Charles, William, and Lilibet. For Prince Harry, there are two routes: escalate or recalibrate. Escalation means more legal muscle, more statements, and a public stance that dares Tom Bower to swing first. It satisfies the urge to defend Lilibet and draw a line in the sand. But escalation also magnifies the very thing he hates: attention on a child and attention on a rumor. Recalibration is colder. Say less, document everything, and build a track record of calm that outlasts the news cycle. It's harder on pride, easier on legacy. The question Harry has to answer is simple. Does he want to win the moment or the marathon? For Meghan, the fork looks like brand architecture. One lane leans into visibility, consistent projects, carefully curated messaging, a steady drumbeat that normalizes the family's present and starves speculation. The other lane pulls back, minimizes exposure, and lets scarcity restore value. Both lanes protect Lilibet. Both can work if executed with discipline. The trap is whiplash. If Meghan pivots too fast or too often, audiences sense strategy before story. The remedy is rhythm, a cadence of updates that feels intentional, not reactive. Tom Bower faces a narrower choice. He can keep teasing, letting anticipation do the heavy lifting, or he can drop a chapter that tries to lock in authority. Teasing keeps him in the conversation. Publishing exposes him to scrutiny point by point. If he believes the material is ironclad, he aims for print and invites the test. If he prefers leverage, he stays in the gray, where headlines repeat his name without committing to his details. Either way, Bower counts on one constant: the palace won't flinch on command. King Charles and Prince William have the simplest, strictest playbook: maintain procedure. The more the story flares, the more valuable consistency becomes. No sudden statements, no reactive edits to protocol. If a clarification ever arrives, it should feel like housekeeping, not fireworks. Their advantage is institutional gravity. Their risk is appearing indifferent. The balance is tone. Quiet doesn't have to mean distant. A well-timed ceremonial moment can signal steadiness without saying a word. And then there's Lilibet, the person at the center who didn't choose the center. Every path that Harry and Meghan take should start with her privacy and end with her future. That means tighter circles, cleaner boundaries, and zero temptation to prove a point with proof that invites more prying. In the long run, the safest strategy isn't a headline, it's a childhood. So where does that leave the story? At a standoff of styles. Harry feels urgency. Meghan favors orchestration. Bower thrives on suspense. Charles and William trust time. The public reads the tea leaves, and Lilibet stays the name everyone says while agreeing she should be left alone. The path forward isn't dramatic. It's deliberate. Now let's land it. The real tension, the real takeaway, and the one question this saga keeps asking every time the room goes quiet. In the end, this isn't a mystery about paperwork. It's a study in power. Prince Harry and Meghan built a voice of their own, and Tom Bower built a spotlight that follows the noise. King Charles and Prince William rely on something older and colder: time. Put them together, and you get a stalemate where the loudest moment and the quietest policy wrestle for the same outcome: control of the narrative around Lilibet. The verified pieces remain steady. The speculation keeps changing outfits. That gap is where perception does its work. Speak too fast, and the story multiplies. Wait too long, and it writes itself. Harry wants to protect. Meghan wants to present. Bower wants to provoke. The crown wants to persist. And the audience, pulled by names and nuance, keeps leaning in, even when the smartest answer is to step back. Maybe that's the point. In a world that rewards heat, restraint becomes its own kind of headline. If legacy is the prize, then the winning move is dull on purpose. Fewer fireworks, more facts, less oxygen for rumors, and every decision filtered through one name: Lilibet. Because long after this round fades, the measure won't be who shouted or who teased. It'll be who stayed steady when the room went quiet. If you want the follow-up when the next move lands, whether it's Harry recalibrating, Meghan refining, Bower publishing, or the palace simply holding, stick around. This story doesn't end. It settles. Then it starts again.